Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
Welcome to Congress in Context.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Congressional Record from Wednesday, April 30th, 2025.
That's right.
Our mission, really, is to pull out the key stuff, the debates, the votes, what's actually being decided or argued about on Capitol Hill.
Cutting through the density of it all.
Exactly. We want to highlight the main arguments, any standout moments, maybe where folks are agreeing or more likely disagreeing.
Yeah, and make sense of it for you, the listener.
Think of it as your guide to what's happening and, well, why you should care. Ready to unpack it.
Let's do it. This record actually gives a pretty good cross-section. It starts with some individual recognitions.
Right. The tributes and honors.
Yeah, and they might seem small, but they often reflect broader values or community priorities.
Okay, so what kind of examples did we see?
Well, there was a significant tribute to Rhode Island's State Senate President, Dominic Riccio.
40 years of service, I saw that.
Impressive, right? And highlighting his work for working people.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Sergeant Rodney Jenkins in Indiana. 2 decades in law enforcement, recognized for his dedication, rising through the ranks.
It shows that local service gets noticed on the national stage sometimes.
It does. And also, Wesley Corbett, Commission Chairman in Effingham County, honored for his service, emphasizing integrity, accountability.
Those specific words seem important. Integrity, accountability, transparency.
Absolutely. But alongside that, there's also the somber side.
Like the mention of the officers in Columbia County.
Exactly. The loss of Deputy Brandon Sykes, the injury of Deputy Gavin White. A stark reminder of the risks involved in law enforcement.
Yeah, it really brings it home.
And there was also a tribute for Jack Edward Erickson in Mississippi, recognizing his contributions to the aerospace industry there.
So a real mix. Public service, law enforcement, industry, personal sacrifice. It paints a picture.
It really does. A picture of the diverse experiences across the country that shaped the discussions back in D.C.
Okay, so from those individual stories, let's shift to the broader policy debates. A big chunk seemed dedicated to environmental regulations.
A very big chunk. Specifically California's motor vehicle standards.
Right, HJRS 87, 88, and 89. Disapproval resolutions. What was the core conflict?
It boils down to EPA rules on heavy-duty vehicles, advanced clean cars, and this omnibus low NOx regulation.
NOx being nitrogen oxide.
Right, a major pollutant. So those supporting disapproval, they were really focused on the economic side.
Costs, basically.
Costs, yeah, especially for the trucking industry. Concerns about consumer choice being limited, some framed it as a kind of Green New Deal mandate.
Strong language.
Very. Arguing it would hike up costs, maybe even cause safety issues if businesses couldn't afford the newer tech, or if the tech wasn't quite ready for all uses, you know.
Right, long-haul trucking or certain climates.
Exactly. Concerns about the feasibility and the upfront cost of going zero emission.
Okay, so that's one side. What about the arguments against disapproval in favor of California's standards?
Well, the main point there was California's unique situation. They've got severe air pollution, compelling circumstances, and a long history of needing stronger standards.
They've had waivers for decades, right?
Decades. And the argument is these standards actually drive innovation across the whole industry.
Pushing technology forward.
Right. Leading to cleaner air, which means real health benefits, and maybe even cost savings down the road from reduced healthcare needs and fuel efficiency.
And they also made the point that other states aren't forced to follow California.
Crucial point. States can choose to adopt California's standards or stick with the federal ones. It's not mandatory nationwide.
Okay, but then there was this whole other layer, the legal argument about using the Congressional Review Act, the CRA.
Yeah, that was fascinating. Can Congress even use the CRA to strike down these waivers?
Oh, what's the issue there?
Well, the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, they're the nonpartisan watchdog, basically.
Right.
They determined that these EPA waiver decisions aren't technically rules, as defined by the CRA.
Huh. So the tool might not even be appropriate here.
That's the argument. Some also argued that even if they were rules, They primarily impact California, not the whole nation in the way the CRA usually anticipates. It raises questions about the scope of that law.
Interesting procedural fight within the policy debate. So despite those legal questions, how did the vote shake out in the House?
Well, the House went ahead and passed two of them. H.J. Res. 87, the one on heavy-duty vehicles, passed 231 to 191.
Okay.
And H.J. Res. 89, the omnibus law in OX1, passed 225 to 196.
So the disapproval succeeded on those two.
In the House, yes. It really highlights that tension, doesn't it, between federal oversight, environmental goals, economic worries, and states' rights.
Definitely a major point of contention.
Yeah, and it connects to broader themes about regulation and where that authority should lie.
Okay, moving beyond the environment. The record also mentions some budget concerns.
It did. Some voices raised worries about potential funding cuts.
For which programs?
CASA programs came up. That's court-appointed special advocates for kids who faced abuse or neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Important work.
Absolutely. And also concerns about potential cuts to public media, PBS, NPR.
Familiar debates there.
Yes. Usually centers on the role of government funding versus private support and the value provided, especially educational content and local news access.
Got it. Now, there was also some reflection on or critique of the previous administration, the Trump administration. Why bring that up now?
Well, policy impacts linger, right? So there were mentions of things like funding that got halted, affecting groups like Adesia Nutrition.
They do work on malnutrition globally.
Yes, ready-to-use therapeutic foods. And then the economic impact of tariffs imposed during that time was brought up again.
Still being debated.
Still being debated. The argument often made is that those tariffs ended up hurting American consumers and businesses more than helping, while maybe benefiting certain sectors or the wealthy. It serves as context for current trade talks.
Okay. And immigration seemed to be another hot topic. Very much so. The record reflects pretty intense discussion about enforcement actions.
Like increased deportations.
Yes, and specific cases drawing concern reports involving legal residents, even an American citizen child with cancer, allegedly facing deportation alongside family.
Wow. That raises serious questions.
Huge questions about due process, family separation, just the basic humanitarian side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Some members use really strong language, authoritarianism, human rights abuses.
Strong accusations.
Very. And one case seemed to be a focal point. Kilmore Abrego Garcia.
What was the issue there?
The claim, repeated several times, was that his deportation went directly against a unanimous Supreme Court order.
A unanimous order.
That's what was stated, citing it as an example of disregard for the judicial branch, the rule of law.
That's a significant charge.
It is. And there was even a mention of the vice president of El Salvador allegedly confirming some kind of payment agreement to receive deportees, adding another layer.
Complex and very contentious, clearly.
Definitely. Highlighting deep divisions on immigration policy and enforcement.
Okay. On a perhaps more reflective note, there were also commemorations.
Yes, marking the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon in Black April.
An important historical moment.
Absolutely. Members reflected on that history, its impact on the Vietnamese diaspora here in the U.S., and their experiences pursuing liberty. It connects history to present-day communities.
And finally, what about the Senate side? Any resolutions or actions noted?
Few things. Resolutions showing support for designating April as Month of the Military Child.
That sounds like something with broad support.
Likely, yes. And another designating April 30th as National Assistive Technology Awareness Day. These often raise awareness and can sometimes signal areas of bipartisan agreement.
Highlighting diverse needs and groups.
Exactly. And the Senate also resumed work on H.J. Res. 42, which deals with energy conservation standards for appliances. So energy policy is still actively being debated there, too.
Okay, wow. That's a lot to cover from just one day's record. Let's try to synthesize this for you, our listener.
Right. So you've got these big contentious debates, environment versus economy, federal versus state power.
Like the California emissions standards votes. Very clear divides there.
Then you have these deeply concerning discussions around immigration enforcement, touching on fundamental issues of due process, human rights, the rule of law itself.
That Abrego Garcia case being cited repeatedly seems significant there.
It does. And then budget priorities, where should taxpayer money go? KSA, public media.
Mm-hmm.
These reflect ongoing debates about society's values.
But you also see moments of unity or at least common ground, like recognizing military kids or assistive technology.
Exactly. And the tributes remind us that policy affects real people, real communities.
So how does this connect directly to you? Well, these aren't abstract debates. Environmental rules affect your air, your transportation choices, the economy.
Immigration policies shape our communities and reflect our national identity and legal principles. Budget decisions impact services you or your neighbors might rely on.
It all circles back. So the first step is just staying aware, right? Engaging with summaries like this deep dive helps cut through the noise.
Definitely. And you can always dig deeper on issues you care about using official resources like congress.gov.
And remember, you have a voice in this.
Absolutely. Contacting your representative, sharing your views on these specific debates we've talked about, that's how democracy is supposed to work. It matters.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on. We've seen these different priorities, these clashes, these moments of agreement in today's record. How did these specific instances reflect the larger challenges and choices America is facing right now?
Yeah, think about how these debates over regulations, rights, and resources are shaping the direction we're heading. It's not just about what happened on April 30th. It's about the ongoing story of our governance.
And what role you want to play in writing the next chapter. Something to consider.